told him that he had a natural swing. The next day, Bradley, for the first time ever, called Zach. He had a few blisters on his hands. Zach said that was normal. Then Bradley asked if Zach would come by next Saturday so they could take a drive and hit golf balls again. Zach said of course, with a happy feeling in his heart. Senator Earl Adams recently admitted that he had been having sex with prostitutes. He claimed, however, that he actually wasn't having sex with them, he was just talking to them. But he did admit that he wore diapers during some of those conversations. When the senator got wind that a newspaper was going to reveal his shortcomings, he called a news conference. Apparently, he figured that by confessing instead of getting caught, he would be forgiven faster. The senator announced that God would forgive him because he understands that senators need to relieve their stress somehow. In a 1998 magazine interview, his wife said that Adams was as faithful as a puppy dog. She added, however, that if she ever did catch him cheating, she would divorce him. In 1999, Adams told CNN that President Clinton should resign because of his affair with Monica. He was unfit to remain in public office after his shameful behavior. Senator Adams, however, said he would remain in office. To resign would be to let down the people who had voted for him. His wife announced that she loved him and would stand by her man. The U.S. Senate contains 100 of the most powerful people in the United States. They are elected because of their integrity, intelligence, and leadership. Yet here is a senator who regularly cheats on his wife, who doesn't realize that an escort service keeps phone records, and who dresses in baby clothes. The man is a joke, but he will have the last laugh when the good people of California re-elect him. Once a week, Neil went grocery shopping. He always made a list, but he always forgot to put one or more items on the list. This used to anger him, but now he just accepted it. "You're not as sharp as you used to be," he told himself. It was Friday, shopping day. He went to the 99-cent store. Sometimes they had a lot of fresh produce. Sometimes they didn't. He got lucky. There were fresh, packaged broccoli, celery, eggplant, and squash. Also, packages of peaches, plums, and apples. He easily had enough produce to last all week if it didn't rot first. The produce alone filled up 4 plastic bags. 4 other bags contained other items that were on Neil's list. He drove to Albertsons, which sold milk by the gallon and at cheaper prices than the 99-cent store. Interestingly, the price of milk had soared in the last month. He used to buy 2 gallons of non-fat milk for $3.59. Now he was paying $4.69. Yet the news media was silent. The same news media that reports a 2-cent increase in gasoline prices or even a 1-cent decrease. That's all over the news. Milk, he thought, just isn't sexy enough. He parked his car in the carport and opened the trunk. Somehow he managed, as usual, to put all 10 plastic bags into his hands and lug them upstairs. What a drag shopping is, he thought, and then he mentally slapped himself. If you think it's a drag now, wait till you can't drive. Wait till you can't even walk up the stairs unless you use a cane. How are you going to get your groceries then? The older you get, he told himself, the more you'd better appreciate the fact that you can still do all these boring chores and errands. Jasper's parents were going to Las Vegas for a week. The last time they were there was 10 years ago. The city had changed greatly in those 10 years. For one thing, the all-you-can-eat buffets were $15 instead of $3, and traffic was much worse, of course. But now, Las Vegas had a monorail that stopped at all the major hotels. No more walking in the hot sun or the bitterly cold wind if you visited Las Vegas in the winter. Jasper's dad loved the buffets. Even at $15, he'll still eat $20 or $30 worth. Jasper's mom said. Jasper asked his dad what games he was going to play. Blackjack, he replied, if he could find a $2 table. Jasper told him that he might have to go downtown to a real old casino. Most casinos, he said, require a $5 minimum nowadays. That didn't surprise his dad. After he lost $100, he was finished anyway, he said. He was never one to throw good money after bad. Jasper's mom had no use for anything except slot machines. She loved the slots, as long as she could find nickel machines and dime machines. "Are any of those left?" she asked Jasper. He said he wasn't sure, but there had to be some, somewhere. She said she was going to play differently on this visit. She would wait till someone used a machine for at least 15 minutes. Then she would play that machine when that person got up and left. Maybe, she hoped, the jackpot would hit on the first nickel that she put in. That's a good idea, Jasper thought. Unfortunately, it's the same trick that everyone who plays the slot machines does, and almost everyone goes home broke. It can be a lonely, depressing job. Not for the successful realtors, of course. Their job is almost glamorous. Some of them, the most successful, work with wealthy people who live in, buy, and sell beautiful houses in beautiful neighborhoods. But for a new realtor, life is hard. A realtor has to pass a comprehensive test and then take continuing education credit classes annually. He or she has to join a realty company and attend meetings regularly. He has to spend hours on the computer researching the latest properties that are being offered for sale. He has to make cold calls to potential clients. These cold calls are uncomfortable for the realtor and annoying to potential clients. Once a realtor gets a client, he must chauffeur the client from one property to another, patiently explaining this and that while answering questions about these and those. It's always a contest between the seller trying to get as much as he can for his house and the buyer trying to pay as little as he can for the same house. Neither one wants to give in. On top of it all, the seller often lies, proclaiming that there are no problems with his house. No, sir, absolutely none whatsoever. The realtor has to put up with the seller's lies and the buyer's cries of poverty, and in the end, he hears these same words from the buyer. "I don't know. Let me think about it." The sinks were leaking. David looked in the local paper and saw an ad for Toby the handyman. David left a message on the answering machine. 2 days later, he called again. He told Toby that he had left a message 2 days ago. Toby apologized. He said he hadn't checked his messages in a couple of days. David felt like hanging up. Why was it so hard to find a worker who was responsible and clean? Many workers were slobs who left messes for the homeowner to clean up. Toby doesn't check his machine, David mused. David told Toby that the kitchen, bathroom, and laundry room faucets were leaking. Toby said he could come over on Friday. Each faucet would cost $20. If he had to buy any parts, that would be extra. David was pleased. $60 was a great price. Of course, if Toby fixed faucets like he checked his messages, maybe the deal wouldn't be so good. Then again, it was only a $60 risk. David asked Toby if a check was okay. Toby said no, he only accepted cash. David said that was okay, as long as he got an invoice. Toby said he would be over Friday at 1 p.m. At 3 p.m., David left a message on Toby's machine asking where he was. At 3:30, Toby showed up. David asked if he had brought an invoice. "Oh, gee, I forgot." "I'm sorry," Toby said. David shook his head in disbelief. But since Toby was there, he decided to let him in. Before Toby walked into David's house, he wiped his feet very carefully on the mat. David noticed that. Maybe Toby will work out just fine, he thought. Wally asked Anita how her daughter Heather was doing. Heather had always been a dutiful, loving daughter. She got married about 10 years ago, at the age of 23. It was the first marriage for her and her husband, Ben. They had 2 kids. Everything seemed fine, even though Heather was the only one working. Ben had gotten laid off 2 years ago. He was still looking for work. They were fortunate because Heather's grandma loved her to death. She had bought a house for Heather as a wedding gift, so Ben and Heather had no mortgage to pay, not 1 penny. Grandma asked only that Heather call her twice a month. Recently, Grandma had asked Anita what was wrong with Heather. Anita said she didn't understand. Nothing was wrong. Then why hasn't she called, Grandma asked. Anita said she would talk to Heather. She left several messages, but Heather didn't call back. Anita drove over to the house. Ben was home taking care of the kids. "Where's Heather?" Anita asked. "She went to the beach," Ben told her. "Without you and the kids?" Ben was reluctant to talk, but he did. Heather had started smoking again. Even worse, she had found a boyfriend. She had met this guy at work, and things got out of hand. Ben didn't know what to do. If he filed for divorce, he might be out on the street with 2 kids to support. If he didn't get a divorce, he had to live with the humiliation of being supported by a wife who was cheating on him. Anita was astounded at her daughter's selfish actions. She drove home and called her mom. Grandma said that hopefully it was just a phase that Heather was going through. She told Anita to make sure to remind Heather to call. It was their first vacation together in years. Meg and Oscar had been running their own jewelry business for years. They made a nice income, but they were busy all the time. They went to one trade show after another, flying throughout the U.S. and often to China and other countries. Their last vacation was at least 10 years ago. Recently, Oscar's doctor said that Oscar's high blood pressure was going to be the death of him. After questioning Oscar about his eating and exercise habits, he concluded that Oscar was stressing himself out at work. He told Oscar that he needed to stop and smell the roses more often. In short, he said, "I'm writing you a prescription for 2 weeks of R&R, rest and relaxation, immediately. In fact, I want you to take off 4 weeks a year, and these must be non-working vacations. No cell phone, no laptop. Do you understand me? In case you don't, I'm telling Meg too. You might not listen to me, but you will listen to her." Meg canceled all their activities for the 2 weeks at the end of July. Fortunately, they did not have any flights scheduled. She booked them a nice hotel near Palm Springs. "We'll catch up on our magazines, newspapers, and TV reruns," she told Oscar. "We won't even talk about work for 2 weeks, okay? We'll relax in the pool, get massages, and treat ourselves like royalty. Got it?" "Yes, ma'am," Oscar said, smiling as he saluted her. The hotel had failed to tell them that it was undergoing renovations, but when it offered everything at half price, Meg and Oscar stayed. The second morning, about 10, Oscar told Meg he was going to take a swim. She told him not to forget his sunblock. She went back to sleep. When she woke up at noon, she put on her swimsuit and went outside. She couldn't stop screaming when she saw Oscar submerged beneath the water. His foot had gotten caught in a suction vent that workers had not covered properly. He had been underwater for 10 minutes. A month after the funeral, back home, Meg was going through her mail. The hotel, apparently worried about a lawsuit, had sent her an offer to stay there free for a month. The congenial letter suggested that she bring a friend. 12 people in British Columbia experienced a disastrous balloon ride when it accidentally caught fire. The balloon was still tied to the ground when the fire started. 3 people jumped out immediately and safely, but the ropes securing the balloon burnt through and the basket started rising. 7 more people jumped out as quickly as they could, but each one jumped from a higher height. The last 2 jumped from almost 50 feet up. Their clothes were on fire. They survived, but both would be in the hospital for several months, according to officials.